Hey, and welcome to Orms TV. Have you ever been interested in a job in the creative industry, or just wondering what it takes to kind of pursue a job as a creative? Well, in this video, I'm going to be discussing a few tips and tricks that I've used so far in my career to get to where I have and to kind of just keep morale and your energy up. So who am I and why am I qualified to talk about this topic with you? I think I should give you a bit of backstory. My name's Sam, and I have been pursuing the dream of filmmaking since about mid-2017. I came out of high school with not really knowing what I wanted to do, and one day I was kind of just sitting around at home and my aunt just had this old Canon 400D, which doesn't exist anymore, but was an amazing little camera while I used it. And I kind of just went out with the intention of taking some photos. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and at the time I didn't see photography as my full-time job. That quickly changed. I remember my first photo sitting on the beach, taking a shot of a surfer coming out of the water. Well, over that year I quickly fell in love and found myself saving up for my own camera. I bought a Nikon D3300. Basic entry-level little Nikon, amazing for photography. And that's where it kind of all kicked off for me. Over the next couple years, I attended a film school. I dropped out at the end of my first year. Right after that, I joined the Orms School of Photography and Videography, where the first time for me, cinematography was offered as an option. I quickly realized that I wanted to be a cinematographer and an editor and a color grader. And from then, my passion and love has grown quickly. I've shot at a 48-hour film festival, which is a globally recognized festival where you have to completely produce a short film in 48 hours. And that means from the scripting process all the way to final delivery in 2 days, 48 hours. That was a challenge, but I had so much fun and realized I enjoy kind of the craziness of it all. After that, I assisted on 2 major sets, both for international films, but I learnt a lot on those productions from the people I followed around, and it taught me a great respect and a lot of tips and tricks that I'm going to be telling you about today. Since then, I started working for Orms, and I'm now fully chasing my dream of cinematography and video editing. So either you've already established yourself in the creative industry and are currently working on your career, or you're watching this video as someone who has no insight into the industry, but you could possibly see this as something you want to do. Regardless, this topic is not meant to discourage anyone. I'm only here to provide a few tips and tricks that help me on my path. With cameras becoming increasingly accessible and the growth of social platforms, as well as brands and companies wanting content continuously shot for them, we're seeing a massive growth and oversaturation in this industry. And in all honesty, who wouldn't want to work in the creative industry? Like I just mentioned, with cameras becoming increasingly accessible, it's making it much easier for newer, younger creatives to get into the industry. Even the camera on your phone at this point is a great starting point. Don't concern yourself with the gear at this point. Get your eye, and then you can start focusing on the gear. With cameras like the ones on the iPhone 13 Pro that allow cinematic video mode as well as macro photography, we can also see that as a huge game changer. Another great thing about this industry is just how lucrative it can be. Although that does mean you have to push yourself a little bit, but there is a massive ceiling for growth when it comes to earning. And lastly, it's just so much fun. The amount of amazing people you meet just by being a person who's got a camera in their hands, it's probably my favorite part about this industry. I have gone on shoots with people I didn't even think I would ever cross paths with, and shared laughs and stories with such amazing people just through being a guy who has a camera. So my first tip, and this is probably the most important one that helped me the most when times got tough, was find your why. Why do you want to become a creative? Why do you want to step into the film industry or any creative industry really? I feel like this applies. The most common misconception, especially amongst people who aren't in the creative industry, is that being a creative is the easy option. It's the easiest job with the least amount of work. And honestly, that could be farther from the truth. It's definitely one of the hardest things to get into when you find out what actually goes into it. Many long nights of editing, conceptualizing, coming up with things, shooting, and putting pressure on yourself. It never really gets any easier, you just get better at dealing with it. It definitely takes a lot to step into this full time. And because of that, you're definitely going to find yourself explaining yourself to a client or to a brand somewhere down the line. Because you got to remember that it's the brand's initiative to use your media in order to sell a product, sell the brand, or just kind of generate interest. And because of that, they are not really focused on the creative aspects, but you are. And your why really helps in those moments where either the client's difficult, or you're tired, or it's a long shoot, or things just aren't going your way, because it's gonna happen. And in those moments, you need to be able to look back on your whys and say, no, I got into the industry because I love filmmaking, and this is the only thing I could possibly want for myself. For me at least, the why matters most at the beginning of your career, when you haven't really established who you are with people or in the position that you want to be, because you have to grind for that position, and that's the part that nobody tells you about. You'll be carrying gear upstairs for people, you'll be setting up lights and not actually touching the camera at all, or you will be dealing with clients who are a little bit of a nightmare. But that's okay. You just have to have your why in place so you can list those reasons for yourself and kind of just keep pushing through. In the beginning of your career, you're going to find yourself surrounded by other creatives who have either stepped into this not knowing what they want to really do with their lives, kind of thinking that the creative industry is the easy option, or they've stepped in coming for the money and they don't know that it's a long process. You've kind of got to develop yourself, develop your skills, and kind of really understand what it is you want and where you're going with this. And I feel like the why really helps on those days where it does become difficult, because those who got into the industry for the wrong reasons won't have their whys in place. Their whys are the monetary gain, and as soon as that doesn't come, it becomes a lot easier to quit. Whereas if you have your whys in place, your reasons for staying, you'll find it far easier to push through those hard days and keep creating, because you know what you want. You know this is just part of the process. It's definitely helped me, and I really hope it helps you. My second tip would be open to change. It usually leads to growth. And what I really mean by that is don't pigeon yourself, especially at the beginning of your career as a young creator. Don't go into it thinking, oh, I want to be a sports videographer, or I want to be a fashion photographer, or something like that, because by doing that, you're just going to make it harder for yourself to grow and to learn. At this point in your career, everything is an opportunity to learn, and every chance is an opportunity to get better. And what I mean by this, and I'm going to use a little bit of personal example here, is back when I started, I thought I just wanted to be a photographer. And from that I went from portrait to landscape to fashion. But really, when I chose just one to focus on, I did get a bit pigeonholed and didn't really focus on the others as much, and because of that lost out on opportunities and work with amazing people. My next would be when I was going through the traditional film process. At film school, I applied as a director and a writer, and then working on the 48-hour film festival, I fell in love with lighting and cinematography. When I worked on professional film sets, I worked in the PA department of the assistant directors. This gave me a much greater understanding for the inner workings of a film set and a crew, and what it means to really be a part of that. And then working as a freelance videographer and editor, I fell in love with color grading, editing, and sound design. So what this just shows me is that going in at a young age with this idea of exactly what you want to be kind of sets you back a little bit, and I would say just open yourself up, be willing to every project. You have a much higher ceiling for growth when it comes to being creative. If you rather just take every opportunity that's given to you and use it to learn, rather than saying no to it just because you want to become something specialized. There is a time for you to choose exactly what you want to be later down the line in your career. But at the beginning, I would suggest taking every opportunity and not pigeonholing yourself at all. So my third and final tip would be give it your all and enjoy it. If you're not 100% committed to creating the best photos and the best videos you possibly could produce and going to whatever lengths it is to create those, you're going to have a bit of a hard time, because there are people out there who are doing that, and that's kind of what it takes in an oversaturated market. We're seeing an influx of creators, and you need to be able to set yourself apart, whether it be your work ethic, whether it be the standard of work you produce, whether it be just the character that you are when you're on set with people. People want to work with people who look like they're enjoying what they do. And like I said at the beginning of this video, This is an incredibly fun industry to work in, and you will meet some of the most amazing people with the most incredible stories to tell you and teach you about your career and yourself. And you've just got to be willing to want it and give it your all. I'm sure you'll do great. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below. It really helps us out. And if you have anything that helped you in your career, or have any questions to ask us about starting a career in this industry, please leave those in the comments down below. And don't remember to subscribe. Cheers.